Hi, and welcome to the B2B Marketers in the Mission podcast. I'm your host, Christian Klepp, and one of the founders of Einblick Consulting. Our goal is to share inspirational stories, tips, and insights from B2B marketers, digital entrepreneurs, and industry experts that will help you to think differently, succeed, and scale your business. Hey Stu, like the last time you and I talked, you mentioned that you were working on, a project that you've been extremely passionate about. I mean, you clearly are a very passionate person, but this one really got you going. Can
Yeah,
you tell us a little bit about that?
no,
No?
I'm joking.
Oh, come on, pretty please.
Well, actually, so here's the thing. I have a couple of sort of worldwide exclusives coming up. Next
Mhm.
week, I'm on the big growth summit with Dr. Barbara Weaver Smith. And so I'm doing the first interview ever about weed, about this new book. It's called, my working title is The Weed Strategies.
Okay.
Um, and,
Weeds?
and
Okay.
yeah, so not the kind you smoke, but
Right.
the ones that are in your lawn,
Yeah,
probably.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
So
annoying things.
so here's so yeah, I'm writing this book. It's the manuscript is due by April this coming year, and it'll come out precisely when the weeds show up in the northern hemisphere. So
Hmm.
that's when it'll launch in 2022. And
Wow.
yeah, I am really excited about this one. I mean, I'm excited. I love contact marketing and all those amazing things that people are doing to get meetings, but this one also just has me just crazy excited because we all know what it means to grow like a weed. We'd all like our businesses to grow like a weed. In fact, we'd all like our personal stocks to grow like a weed.
Yeah.
Politicians dream of having the countries grow like a weed. I guess in some way, we're all driven to grow like a weed, and that's sort of expressed in our space programs and so on. I mean, we really do understand. It's pervasive. We all understand what it means to grow like a weed. Now, I've been putting together, just I'm still doing research. I'm
Sure.
still interviewing
Hmm.
people. I've interviewed some incredible people.
Hmm.
Kathy Ireland was unbelievable. Some
Wow.
people may
Kathy
only
Ireland. Yeah.
know her as the supermodel who was in SI a while ago, but
Yeah.
man, what a brilliant thinker she is.
Hmm.
I mean, like a brand genius.
Hmm.
So the, the stuff that she had to say was just incredible. And Henrik Fisker, the founder of Fisker Automotive and the designer of some of my favorite sports cars from Aston Martin, and General David Petraeus and T.
Hmm.
Boone Pickens, the legendary oil guy. He was the guy that I'm pretty sure he was the guy that the movie, sorry, the TV show Dallas was founded on or based on. And but I mean, just a legendary figure in the business world, and more. I think Damon Johns is coming. Damon John is coming, and so there's some really interesting people that have been interviewing. And what I've been asking them is, well, I'm showing this weeds, um, this weeds model. It's an acronym
Yeah.
for Weed Inspired Enterprise Expansion and Domination Strategies. So it's a system for dominating your market and expanding and defending your turf and all this. I mean, the metaphor
Wow.
really holds up in an incredible way.
Okay, sorry, just one more time for the
Yeah,
listeners.
yeah.
What does WEED stand for?
So WEEDS stands for Weed Inspired Enterprise. Um, oh God, I keep forgetting. Let me start that again.
Sure,
WEEDS
sure.
WEED stands for Weed Inspired Enterprise Expansion
Mhm.
and Domination Strategies. So it's a whole
Wow.
system of strategies to follow exactly what weeds do to grow your business, to grow your career, to grow your personal wealth or stock, et cetera. Grow anything, a project, anything
Mm,
that needs to grow to go forward and grow.
yeah.
Weeds have incredible insights to offer us, and really a framework to offer us. And so that's what
Sure.
the book's about.
Wow. That's an amazing concept, Stu. I mean, like, but like typical Stu Heinecke, there's a story behind how you came up with that idea. So,
That
like,
well, there is.
yeah, well, tell us.
There is, yeah. Was just, I was driving down the Santa Monica Freeway
Hmm.
many years ago. I'm kind of imagining the traffic doesn't move very fast on the freeway on that
Probably not.
freeway
No.
anymore.
Yeah.
But back then it did. It was just racing cars and roaring tires and all this concrete. I mean, actually, it was here's this median, this 40-foot wide concrete median between 12 lanes of freeway traffic, And in a crack, I was so driving along, I noticed growing out of a crack in the concrete was this dandelion. And dandelions look so happy. They have those little cute little yellow flowers, and
Right.
they kind of blow around in the wind. I mean, they kind of depend on blowing around in the wind because that's
Mhm.
how they blow their
Yeah.
seeds around. And I just thought, well, that's incredibly impressive. In this sea of impossibility, all this concrete and roaring tires, this little plant found a way to make it work.
Mhm.
And I thought, I hope that I can live up to that standard in my career. So I don't know if, yeah, we'll say I have. I think I have.
I
If this
believe
book does
so.
what I
Yeah.
think it'll
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
then I will have.
Yeah.
So, and I will have paid back the dandelion, I suppose. But I just thought, isn't that just incredible? Because a couple things. One, um, it was just so happily unfurled and running its process, and I just thought, well, isn't that interesting? It's not depressed about where it is. Right?
Oh,
It didn't
right.
say, I really thought that I'd end up at the beach, being at the beach or something. It just did it where it did it. So, and it's also, I think it's really significant that wasn't a rose bush growing out of the crack, because rose bushes don't do that. And why don't they do it? I mean, it's not just because they're more polite plants, I suppose. It's because they don't fling their seeds for miles and miles.
Yes.
They don't. I mean, here's something that I've just been filling into my infographic about the book. So
Mhm.
I've just come across this research that says that every dandelion produces 15,000 seeds in its lifetime. They live 5 to 10 years. They're perennials, not
Wow.
annuals.
Okay.
So when you see the top, falling off and dying, that's just the process of senescence. It's
Yes.
just the top. That stuff has been used up, and it goes into hibernation and recharges, I suppose, and then poof, in the last week of April or first week of May, at least in the northern hemisphere, it'll pop back up again. So it'll produce 15,000 seeds. 25% of those will germinate into
Mhm.
plants. So that's 3,750 plants
Okay.
from one, which is a 37,500% growth factor
Mhm.
from the one plant to 3,750 plants.
Yeah.
And that an acre of dandelions produces 240 million seeds every year.
Oof.
So, you look at that.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah.
I mean, you think about, I guess the big difference between us and weeds is that we have brains and free will. We go where we want to go. We do what we want to do. It
Yeah.
also
And we complain a lot
means
more.
we can be lazy. We can be depressed. We can be I don't know. There are a lot of ways that freedom can work against us.
Yeah.
Whereas weeds have been around for the fossil record says 140 million years.
Mhm.
So they've been around a long time, and they don't have brains, but what they do have instead is this genetic programming to
Mhm.
run a set of processes that have been honed over 140 million years.
Right.
They're really worked out well. I mean, those are solid processes.
Yeah. Those
And
are solid facts. Yeah.
part of that programming is that they have these attributes. They're aggressive and resilient and persistent, and they don't, like I was about to say, they don't give up, but that is persistent.
Yeah.
But they're nimble, adaptable. That we know exactly how that weed grew out of that crack
Mhm.
in the medium.
Yes.
The dandelion blows its seeds blow all over the place.
Yeah.
I know some dandelion seeds have actually traveled thousands of miles, or maybe tens of thousands of miles, but typically they'll disperse around a 10-mile radius.
Mm.
Rose bushes don't do that.
No.
Like, very few things
Absolutely
do
not.
that.
Yeah. Mm.
So it's a very aggressive approach at exploring and probing all of the opportunity within a 10-mile radius. So no wonder it found its way to the crack. It just
Yeah.
blew around and blew in and then germinated. It's such a beautiful thing, and we think of weeds as being such a negative thing, but and I suppose they are when they're showing up on our lawn. But
Yeah.
here's what I hope. So I want the book will be launching in that last week of April,
Mhm.
first week of May timeline in 2022,
Right.
and there's a really specific purpose for that. That's when the weeds start showing up all over the northern hemisphere, and I want all the weeds to serve as my memes. So like people will say, "Oh my God, look what's showing up in the lawn again." Oh wait, that book. There's that book. Wait,
Yeah.
I gotta
Yeah,
buy
those
that
are all
book.
of Stu's fans right there. Like, speaking of which, are those dandelions behind you?
There
They
is,
aren't,
yeah,
right?
it's true.
Yeah.
There is one.
Well, Stu, that was such an incredible story, and it's again, it's testament to your creative prowess, sir. I mean, and I think it was to your point about like why you came up with this strategy, because it's so applicable to our lives, not just professionally, but in general. It's correct me if I'm wrong, but like creative adaptability, resilience, perseverance, and to a certain degree, if you see weeds, they always, I'm going to say, they operate in clusters. So there's a little bit of a herd mentality, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, they're
yeah,
definitely, yeah. There's a collective well, there is no mentality, but there's
yeah.
a collective strategy. Yes, for
Behavior,
sure.
yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Um,
Can I just
mm,
point something out?
yeah.
These books are a lot like cartoons, actually. I think that it's all the same process. So I haven't drawn it yet. There's
Hmm.
one that is just on my mind. So I'll recite this
Sure,
one to you. But
please. Yeah.
it's one that I'll be submitting to the Wall Street Journal at some point.
Hmm.
So it'll be two dogs, and one of them is turning to the other, saying, "I lost my train of thought. What was I barking about?" So you know, we think
Yeah,
about politics. We're all barking. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of truth that you can pull out of that, right? A lot of
yeah.
there. All I know is it was a funny idea, but then when you think about it, it's just that's what humor does. It provides insights. There's a reason why it's funny, and
Mm,
that's why it's funny. And you discovered it sort of the back way, a
mm.
backhanded way. But that's what I think all of these books are about. It's just there's an insight like that, and some of them turn out to be cartoons, and some of them turn out to be books. But
Right.
all of them, I just want to have people come away with it a little more enriched for having had the experience.
And they'll be all the better for it too.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, it's Christian Klepp here. We'll get back to the episode in a second, but first, is your brand struggling to cut through the noise? Are you trying to effectively reach your target audience and boost your sales? Are you trying to pivot your business? If so, book a call with Einblick Consulting. Our experienced consultants will help your B2B business to succeed and scale. Go to www.einblick.co for more information. So, Stu, we've been talking about your craft for the past several minutes, and you've shared like really like amazing and incredible anecdotes, and I just want to throw this ball into your court for a minute. Like, in your professional opinion, like what do you think is, with regards to your area of expertise, what do you think is the most underrated tactic?
And you're not talking about weeds now. You're talking about
Contact marketing.
getting meetings. Yeah.
Mm,
Underrated. Um, that's a really tough question to answer because
mm,
everybody uses email,
mm-hmm.
and I don't think they use it properly.
Right.
So, and it's a very crowded channel. So
Mm-hmm.
all of that's all the things I'm telling people to avoid. But when
Mm-hmm.
people say, "How do I stand out using email?" I'm saying, well, first of all, you're probably one of the most crowded channels you could be in.
Yeah.
So maybe one of the things you should do is step out of that channel, use something else, or at least be multimodal in your communication.
Yeah.
Having said that, there is a really, really, um, I don't know whether it's underrated, but maybe just disregarded, perhaps, method or of using email, which would you could figure out who anybody's email address is, right?
Right.
Anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're going to reach out to someone who just hears from too many people, what's going to make that email stand out? I think one of the things that'll make it, a few things. One is it's got to be brief. If it's 12 words or less, that's really good, because everybody else's are long. There's several. I was going to say chapter, like what's
Chapters.
about to say chapters long, but they're at least
Well, some
several
emails do
paragraphs.
do look like chapters, right?
They
Like.
are, yeah, several chapters long. So nobody's going to read that.
Mm,
And you've just shown you have absolutely no regard for their time.
right.
So if it's really brief, if it's 12 words or less, you are showing respect for their time. It's much easier to respond to you, and do it in a way that has them saying, "How on earth how would you do that?" I think Dave Brock gave me this advice. Say it in a way that has them saying, "Well, how would you do that? How would you make that happen? How does that work?" So and send it. Mark Hunter then contributed this one. He
Mhm.
said, send that email on the weekend, not during the week, because
Yeah.
during the week there's all kinds of levels of screening.
And
But
noise. Yeah.
on the weekend, and if you do it, the time has to be just the right time too. Do it early Saturday morning, so they wake up and there it is, and if you're reaching out to a CEO or someone who's a C-level executive, they might check into their email real quickly before they move on with their weekend.
Mhm.
So that's a good time to do it. Another one is on Sunday evening when they're back at their computer saying, "Okay, what am I doing this week?"
Just about to head into the
Yeah,
week. Yeah.
yeah. Actually, you could do it other times. You could do it just before work starts
Mm.
for everybody else. So, because high achievers are usually in early. So maybe 8 o'clock instead of 9, after 9 o'clock, but do it before hours or after hours. So if you do that, then you can actually get your emails responded to by some pretty impressive people. Not guaranteed, but nothing is really. But
No.
that
Yeah.
that would be one. Another one might be using profile scrapes in a very thorough way to produce some very very well. I called it deep personalization in Get the Meeting, but use deep personalization to fashion some outreach device or gift that is really going to resonate with that person because you did your homework. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to resonate with them because you did your homework. And there's this really interesting story. One guy who sent actually a picture of a falconry glove. The fellow he was trying to reach was really interested in falconry, so he sent a picture of it. He said, "This is the glove I'm sending you." And the guy wrote back immediately. Someone that no one on his team had been able to respond at all. He wrote back real quickly and he said, "Hey, thanks, it's really cool, but I'm not a prospect for your services. Still, I really appreciate what you're doing. Thanks
Mm.
so much." Then the glove arrives, and he gets right back in touch and he says, "Hey, remember I wasn't a prospect? Well,
Well,
I'm
I am
not.
now.
Well, no, but I know 3 people who are three CIOs who are in the market for what you're selling, and I'm going to make introductions right now." So he got
Amazing.
3 deals, three
Amazing.
six-figure deals, um, just because he paid attention to who the person is and did something relevant to who they are. So I call that I guess I just call that deep personalization. And
Yeah.
in this book, Get the Meeting
Yeah.
chapter, you'll find that in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. No, I mean, thanks so much for sharing that one. Um, so one more for the road. What's the best piece of career advice that you've ever received, and that you apply
Oh
to
man,
your life? Yeah.
there was no one piece of advice, but um, I really have to sort of redirect that to who my mentors were, because
Mm.
it was like I was raised by wolves in my
Okay.
early career. Those wolves were the best cartoonists in the world. I mean,
Mm.
this included Gahan Wilson, Eldon Dedini, Leo Cullum, Bob Mankoff, the former editor at the New Yorker, and I mean, these guys, and they didn't even realize they just became part of my group. I hired them in to be part of my stable of cartoonists for my business, for that creative business that I started
Mm.
all those years ago. And by working with them, I learned, oh my God, it was like a classroom. Well, I don't know more than a classroom. It was just this mega mentorship program that I put together for myself.
Wow.
So those, yeah, those guys they were amazing. And I derived so much from them. And I think there's one other person who served as a mentor from a distance, and that's J. Conrad Levinson, the author of
Yeah.
Guerrilla
Guerrilla
Marketing.
marketing. Yeah.
And what a
Oh
big
wow.
honor. I mean, I actually I got to have him write the foreword to How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. So really my first published book, he was the contributor of the foreword.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's one piece of advice. It was I just got such an incredible set of values and um, I don't know, just instruction on how to do things. I don't know, just particularly how things worked in cartooning,
Yeah.
and then from Jay, how things worked on the sort of audacious side of marketing.
Of marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. And I think to your point, it's something that a friend of mine and I discussed like a couple of weeks ago. It's never underestimate the value of having a good mentor.
Mm.
Number one, and number two, you'll be surprised how many people are out there if you ask them, how generous these people are with their time. But I think that comes with I'm gonna throw in a caveat there. That comes with a condition attached, and the condition is you have to be ready and willing to put in the work. You got to be all in. You can't just be like kind of half baked. It's kind of like hiring a personal trainer, and then you don't really want to go to the gym and work out, right? So, and a couple months later, you're like, hey, wait, how come I don't have muscles, right? So, so Stu, thank you so much for coming on. I mean, this has been such a fun and engaging and insightful session. What's the best way for people out there to connect with you?
Well, first, I just want to say thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Best way to connect is probably LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it depends on what level of connection you're talking about. You can find my books,
right?
And I would suggest you read them, because if you want to get meetings, they will. God, I think it was Andre. Remember, that's how we connected. This sort of is a full circle kind of story. Andre Zinkovich got in touch with me and wanted to interview me because he had read my book. I guess probably both of them, but particularly How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And he told me that he made $300,000 from one of the things that he read.
Yeah, that was an incredible story.
That's a good ROI on the book.
Indeed.
So get the book.
Yes.
And then connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty open about it unless you pitch me. It's like I'm gone.
Or send to a creative direct mailer. All right.
Do that and figure out where to send it. You've got to impress me that way.
Exactly. Oh, and speaking of books, I got a surprise here for you. It arrived in the mail yesterday. Boom.
Oh, look at that book, a classic. Hey, do you know that thing? When we write books, we write them in isolation. You're not out in a coffee shop doing it. You're in isolation. I was in my basement when I wrote that book.
Oh.
But now I just got to say that I didn't know how nobody knows how their books are going to do, but that book was named earlier this year. It was named one of the top 64 sales books of all time.
I saw that on LinkedIn. Congratulations.
Yeah, and then this week, both of them, the Get the Meeting and How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, turned up in the top 50 sales books for 2020. But I wasn't even writing a sales book.
Yeah.
I'm not a sales author. I'm just writing about getting meetings. But of course, all of us need to get meetings.
All of us need to get meetings. It's, to drive your original point back, drive it home. Everyone needs to get meetings, regardless of what profession you have, right? So, no, I mean, amazing. And quite frankly, Stu, if we were doing this in person, I'd ask you to autograph the book, but a virtual signature will have to do for now.
Yeah, here you go.
Stu Heinecke, thank you so much for coming on, and I wish you all the best, and stay healthy, be well, and we'll talk soon. All right.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure.
Take care. Bye. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast. To learn more about what we do here at Einblick, please visit our website at www.einblick.co and be sure to subscribe to our show on iTunes or your favorite podcast player.